Good morning, everyone. It's Gary from Soccer Pro, and today I have the honor of having Stewart Flaherty with me from Dartmouth College, and he has a very unique ID camp program that they've put together. And Stewart, why don't you go ahead and explain how that works for everyone today, and tell us a little bit more about your background.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, so I'll start with my background and get that out of the way, and then we can talk about more important things. But I was born in Middlesbrough, England. I did a sports science degree at Lancaster University in England, a sports psychology degree at master's degree at Loughborough University in England, and then moved to America in 2005, originally for Cody High School girls team in Wyoming. Moved from there to Real Salt Lake in Utah to do the academy. Moved from there to Cape Cod Crusaders, who are PDL, now USL League Two in Massachusetts. Started in the college game in 2008 in New Jersey with Felician, a Division II school, and then moved up to Maine for another PDL/USL2 gig with the Portland Phoenix. And during my time in Maine, went from assistant coach at Bates College to spending 6 years as head coach of Bates College, and then ended up at Dartmouth. Now, a cool little thread of relating me to Dartmouth was my first youth teams in Maine. The Portland Phoenix had Wyatt Omsberg on them, and he ended up coming here to Dartmouth, team captain, Ivy League Player of the Year twice, first round MLS draft pick. He's actually in EU now, still on the Chicago Fire, entering his fourth season in the league. Wow. And the year he left Dartmouth, I came in, which was kind of a cool little bit of continuity. It's nice to see his face on the locker room wall every day.
So why don't you go ahead, tell us about this program you've put together, because just the name of it can actually cause a little confusion for some people. So let's start there.
Yeah, the name is Soccer Academics. What it is, it's the camp of the Dartmouth College staff. It's owned by our head coach, Bo Oshinai, and you will have Bo there at every event, which is actually a pretty key part of the ID camp process, because where a lot of kids will get caught up is you look for that exposure. So you go to these camps where you've got assistant coaches from 10, 20 different schools, and it serves that purpose of initial exposure. But the fact is, somewhere down that line of recruitment, you need the head coach to watch you play, because somewhere in every school's recruitment process, that staff's going to sit in a room and get their depth chart down from whatever their final list is, 40, 50 kids, down to 7 or 8. Now, you can imagine yourself how many head coaches are going to sign off for 4 years on kids that they haven't watched play themselves. So with Bo being at every event, it makes it a little bit unique on the ID camp circuit, that if you have interest in Dartmouth, it's a chance to play in front of our head coach, who is the ultimate decision-making here. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are going to have the pleasure of having that in their own state. There is some COVID issues that mean we're not going to have our typical residential camp at Dartmouth, but I think that might add to our exposure in terms of all the locations we go to are going to be easier commutes than coming up to New Hampshire for a lot of people. So there's obviously things we'd rather have about our 4-day residential camp, but this is the hand we're dealt now coming out the back end of the pandemic, and we're pretty excited about it. There's 10 events in 10 locations. I'll give you the link so you can put it up there. But we pretty much go down the East Coast. I'll read the swing to you. It is...
Well, hold on, Stu. Let's just back up for a minute, because what you guys are doing, I think, is pretty unique. Instead of taking a 4-day high-intensive ID camp in one location, you're actually taking this on the road, and you're going from not just the school location, but to 10 different locations, which is going to mean that the players don't all go to Dartmouth. You're basically coming to them and giving them that opportunity to get the exposure in front of the same people, but at their, let's call it, home location or a nearer to home location.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, there was a point this wasn't plan A. If COVID hadn't happened, we might be on our same swing of having a couple of off-campus events and a big residential camp of Dartmouth. But this is the best way to do it right now. I think with the logistics and reality of having kids from all over the country living together in a college dorm right now, I think it's the safest way to go about it. And there's definitely going to be some added benefit where I think we will get attendance in the regions we're going to, in terms of how many players we see in that region, much higher than if everyone had to come to New Hampshire for the event. So maybe it's one of those things that it comes out of COVID, and then we keep things this way going forward if it's a successful summer. But the initial feedback we've got, the signups we see coming in, both in terms of level of player and number of player, we're pretty excited about it so far.
All right. So basically, this is a full-blown ID camp. You're going to have the head coaches there from Dartmouth, or head coach, I should say. So this is not just it's not a summer camp, right? You're not just going there to play some soccer. This is a serious event with serious people there to do some serious recruiting. So with that being said, what can these guys expect when they get to this summer camp? I meant to say ID camp, not summer camp.
Yeah. ID camp in the summer.
Right.
What an easy mistake to make.
Yeah.
But obviously they'll see the Dartmouth staff there. Now we're working on right now, we will have regional staff. We're going to staff every event with 4 coaches who are more driving distance and regional to the camp. So if you go to the event in Maine, you'll see schools from Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont. You go to the event in Tampa, Florida, you'll see Florida schools. You go to the events in North and South Carolina, they're the schools you'll see. So in addition to Dartmouth, we'll have different colleges there, and we try and cover all 3 divisions, because you can imagine when you deal with typically 100 kids is a good guess at these events. It's not 100 Dartmouth kids, it's not 100 D1 kids. So what we want to have is a situation where there is an option there for as many of those kids at the camp that we can get, whether that's D1, whether that's D2, whether that's D3, whether that's the elite academic world we live in, whether it's a slightly lower academic world. We try and cover every base. Now we do run into situations where, a D3 school wants a kid from one of our camps and the kid doesn't want to go D3. That is what it is. But we're just trying to open the door of opportunity to as many kids as we can, rather than saying, there's going to be a handful of kids that we go after for Dartmouth and everyone else, thanks for coming. That's one way to go about it, and they've obviously all got the Dartmouth opportunity, but I think there is a way to help more of the population at that camp.
Right. And one important thing to think about, I believe, is that Dartmouth is such a big draw that it will get a high quality player draw. And then that high quality player draw is going to also draw in the high end coaches from good schools. So the whole thing has a synergistic approach and benefit to the players and to the coaches, because Dartmouth is such a big name.
Yeah. And I've got first-hand experience of that, because when I was coaching at Bates in Maine, which is a NESCAC school, I signed a good number of kids that came to Bates and ended up starting, including a left back. My last year at Bates, every game started a left back. I signed him from the Dartmouth camp. I signed a goalkeeper from the Brown camp, because you're right. Your coaches are going to put themselves in as many positions as they can to watch kids. That could be premier games, could be high school games, could be club games, ID camps, summer camps. The more you can get players in front of your eyes, then it's like fishing, right? The wider you spread your net, the more chance you have of bringing in the results you want to bring. So I think not only will you find the 4 staff coaches there, the first 2 hours of the camp are more drills and functional, but the second 2 hours of the camp is full field gameplay. So you usually find another wave of coaches come in just for the second half of the day just to watch the games. They're not staffing the camp, but they are there to watch.
Sure, but coaches still like to see players with good skills development, don't they?
They do, but you'll just, it's obviously not less important when we're doing the drills, but we find a dynamic where there'll be a much bigger crowd in the second half of the day when the kids are out there 11v11 showcase.
All right. So when you are running these programs, are you also going to be videoing the games and then distributing that video out to other coaches?
So, we haven't marketed the videoing. We haven't officially said it, because the fact is, once you've said it, you have to do it. We want to do it. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a logistics thing. Like we're booking locations in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia that we haven't seen yet. And I've turned up to fields where it's real easy to video. I've turned up to fields where the angle is just horrible. Yeah. So we don't have a raised platform where we can guarantee every location will get you quality video. So it's something that we're trying to do. It's not something that we're promising.
All right. Well, we'll keep people posted on that, because if you can get the videos and then send them out to additional college coaches, that's just one more reason or one more opportunity for these kids to showcase their talents to the widest range of coaches possible. All right. So let's get into some real specifics here. You are going to run 10 events. You're going to go down the East Coast. Why don't we start with the first one? Where is the first one going to be? When is it going to be? And what should people do if they want to learn more about this and actually sign up for it?
Lewiston, Maine on July 1st. And the Soccer Academics website is just going to have a list of the locations and the registration link on the front page. So that will be easiest. Right now we're in there.
Stewart, let me interrupt you for a second. Can you just say that URL real quickly for people?
Yeah, www.lewiston, socceracademics.com.
Okay, socceracademics.com. Got it.
And the front page will have all the events up there. First one is in Lewiston, Maine. It's at Lewiston High School. It's their turf football field and their soccer field. So it's going to be 2 full fields. So the first half of the day, you'd have a group of kids on half the field. And then the second half of the day, it will be 2 games going on simultaneously, 11v11 subs with full field.
All right, fantastic. And then where are you going after that?
We'll be going to Massachusetts, July 7th, and that's at 4 Kicks in Marlborough. July 12th, we'll be in New Jersey at the home facility of Cedar Stars, Capelli Sports Complex. July 14th is a pretty unique one. We'll be at Dillon Stadium, the home of Hartford Athletic. And cool bit of history we learned is Pele and Eusebio have actually both played in that stadium.
Oh, nice.
July 16th, we'll be at United Sports Complex in Downington, Pennsylvania. July 26th, we'll be in Rock Hill, South Carolina at Manchester Meadow. August 6th, we'll be going west to Scottsdale, Arizona at Scottsdale Sports Complex. And we are days away from finalizing the field and date for Raleigh, North Carolina, Atlanta or Marietta in Georgia, and Tampa, Florida. All we're going back and forth with there is we're trying to find a date where we have a reasonable hour. It's very easy to get really early morning time. It's very easy to get really late at night field time, but that's not, what parents are going to want. So we're just making sure we have a reasonable time of day. And as soon as we do, we'll have that field location and the time and the date up on the website.
All right. Now, what happens if someone comes to one and they really enjoy it and maybe the coaches like them? Are they going to be able to participate in more than one? Let's say they go to the program in Maine and the coach says, hey, that's a good player. I want to see more of that person. Would they then be advised to go down to the New Jersey event or maybe the Florida event?
It's going to be an option. It's going to be an option for everyone. It's obviously not going to be mandatory, but it's definitely going to be an option for everyone. And they are going to be different camps. At each camp you go to, you're going to get the Dartmouth staff at everyone, so you run the risk of getting a little bit sick of us, right? But the rest of the staff will be different. We won't be having the same coach in Maine that we do in Massachusetts. There won't be the same coaching staff in Massachusetts we have in Connecticut, and there won't be the same staff in Connecticut and New Jersey. So you'll get different college exposure, but you will also get different drills and different what have you at each event.
That's actually a benefit, though, because now you've got the Dartmouth Foundation, and then you're always getting new exposure. So you could theoretically go to multiple events and get recruited by completely different people. That makes sense.
That was the idea. You run a risk of running an event in Maine and an event in Mass. Obviously, the draw of Dartmouth, you can get multiple kids want to attend both, and you don't want to be that stand-up comic who does the same thing twice, right? And the second night people see you, it's kind of the same thing. So there was definitely some effort there to make each event unique. And even as to the detail of Connecticut, you're in the stadium of a pro team. Pretty cool experience for a high school kid, right?
Yeah. So, Stewart, why don't you go ahead and explain or at least highlight who the ideal type of player is that should come to an event like this?
I think ideal is always a tough one, right? Like, what is the ideal player?
Or let's say a sweet spot. Let's say not ideal, but just what is the range, from...
Well, what we're priding ourselves on is, and I've said this earlier, we're not just looking for impact D1 top end kids. Obviously we're going to pick players at Dartmouth who we feel can come here to Dartmouth. And now there's different types of player who can play at Dartmouth. There is a player who could come in, play as a freshman, impact games and have significant sway on wins and losses. There is a player who could come into Dartmouth, not play year 1 or year 2, but that doesn't mean by the time they're a junior or senior couldn't be a productive starter. So even the players we're looking at, what I've just described there is a pretty big range of player. But we're also going to have the other D1 schools. We're going to have D2 schools. We're going to have D3 schools. So we're really making an effort here to open the door and the window of opportunity to every active high school player that wants to play in college. Now, I say this as a Dartmouth coach in a quote-unquote fortunate position, but I do believe a flaw in the youth world is we blinker a lot of players to that D1 only mindset. And we don't have them take sort of reality and actual feedback into account. And what I mean by that is I used to be the club liaison for Portland Phoenix for college. And I used to say, don't even ask me what level I think your son is. I'm one man. I could be wrong.
Right.
You look at this NFL draft, how many times they get it wrong. With all their scouting, how many times they get it wrong as to who the best player is.
Yep.
But there is a market out there and you will get feedback. And if you never hear from D1 coaches and you get a lot of D2 responses and you get a lot of D3 responses, and D1 will send you a camp invite once a year and D3 will call you 3 times a week, that's not me telling you you're a D3 level player. That is the market saying, here is a window of opportunity for you. You can choose to ignore it and keep hoping this changes, but this is kind of what people are telling you you're at right now. Right. I think kids should do that more. You know, I think kids should be open-minded at the start of the process. You can aspire to go to any school you want to go to. And you could even, if you've got the means and the resources and the schedule availability, go to the ID camp of the dream school, the number one school, because then you can always look in the mirror and say, I put myself in that environment. I was on that field right in front of that coach, and I showed them what I had.
Yep.
As to whether they get the answer they want, you can at least look in the mirror and say you did that. And then at the same time, you don't have to, you know, picking up the phone to a D3 school doesn't make you less likely to play D1. You know, going on a visit to a D2 school doesn't make you less likely to play D1. But obsessing over D1 and ignoring everything else, it doesn't make you any more likely to play D1 than the kid who's got all 3 doors open. Right. And it makes you a lot less likely for the other 2. So I would have kids look at D1, look at D2, look at D3, and then have the adults in their life guide them as to go, okay, every 3 to 6 months we check in. These are the schools that are actually calling us. These are the schools that are replying to our emails. These are the schools that are watching our games. These are the real life prospects. And this isn't a no yet, but we're not getting anything back. You know, and there's a lot of kids that hinder their college journey just by they enter their senior year in the same mindset they were 18 months earlier, just crossing their fingers and hope schools that recruit really aggressively finally call them back. And I just don't feel like that's the best way to go about it. And part of our info session here is there are schools here today that you haven't heard of. There are schools here today that you haven't seen on TV. Right. There are schools here today that maybe right now today you think you're a little bit better than, but let the soccer world show that out, because if you are better than them, then all the schools better than them will be calling you, will be inviting you on visits. But if they're not, and it's the only school showing interest in you, maybe it's a good idea to go there instead of a walk onto a coach who won't even pick the phone up and call you.
Yeah, and really, people need to keep their mind open from the standpoint that there are some absolutely amazing D3 schools from an academic standpoint. You know, you've really got to look at that and say just spectacular schools. So you can't just keep your mind closed to a D1 school. You may not even like the D1 school. You may love the D3 school and say, okay, I'm going to go to the school I love and play for a D3 team, or go to a school I don't like just so I can play D1 soccer. It doesn't make sense. There's so many great schools out there and so many phenomenal D3, D2 schools. And the soccer at those levels, it's not simple soccer. I mean, it is some high level, great soccer. So you're not really sacrificing anything to go to a school you love and play the game you love.
Yeah. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of good soccer teams in this country. Most clubs only ever want to talk about 20, right?
Right.
It's not a great message to send to young players.
You go to some of these D3 colleges and the campuses are just amazing. The academics are amazing. So why would you not want to go there? Well, anyhow, I don't want to get too caught up in that. That's my personal belief. I agree with you. I think people limit themselves too much, and they should open their mind to these other schools, because there's a lot to go into college than just the soccer team. It's a whole combination of things. So find the best fit and the best overall package for what you're doing. Let's jump back to the first event. Let's talk about that for just one more minute, okay?
Yeah.
Give me the date one more time and the location one more time, please.
It's July 1st at Lewiston High School in Maine. And that's an area I'm very familiar with, because that's the neighbor of Bates College, where I was the head coach for 6 years. And we actually had our last soccer academics event, and it's strange saying it was our last one because it was in 2019, but it was in Lewiston on the campus of Bates College. Bates, their fields aren't open right now to outside rentals because of COVID, so we'll be going to the high school in that city. And Lewiston High School has a pretty nice story behind it. They actually went viral about 3-4 years ago, they had a team full of refugees from Somalia, Kenya, a bunch of African countries. They went undefeated. They were ranked number 1 in the country. And there was actually a book written about the team that was a real cool story.
Wow. Well, okay. So Soccer Academics is where you can go to sign up and get more information. Is there anyone that they can contact if they go to the website and they have more questions about what the program is about and whether it's right for them to sign up?
Me. Yeah, okay. They can call me 207-346-8405 or stewart.flaherty@dartmouth.edu. And you can just go to the Dartmouth Soccer website and my email's on there.
All right, fantastic. Well, this sounds like a great program, Stewart. I'm really glad you had a chance to come on and tell us all about it. And I look forward to hearing the progress as you go from your first location, second location, third location. So hopefully after you run your first camp, you can come on back and give us some highlights about how it went and what kind of successes you had.
Happy to do that. I might have a tan by then too, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I might look better on screen for you.
Right. I know. It's like, wow, you see yourself on camera and think, oh my goodness, I haven't been outside for a while. I better get some sun.
Yeah.
But we're in Illinois, so what do you expect? Anyhow.
We're in New Hampshire. I'm with you.
So again, thank you, Stewart. And you have a great day. Remember, Soccer Academics, first event July 1st. You can contact Stewart directly if you have more questions. These are going to be great programs. You're going to have the head coach from Dartmouth there, along with a whole assortment of other coaches that'll be drawn into this high-level event. So if you can make it, it's a great event for you to attend.